Hi, you're watching Hindustan Times and I'm Aditi Prasad. WhatsApp has filed a legal complaint. It has sued the Indian government seeking to block the regulations, the new IT rules that come into effect from today. They say that the new rules would compel them to break privacy protection to users. Now, the main point of contention, of course, seems to be the tracing of WhatsApp messages. They're saying that the new provisions requires WhatsApp to make provisions for the identification of the first originator of of a message or a inflammatory message or whatever that the government deems as a wrong message, which does not need to be on social media. They claim that this provision of traceability in the new IT rules is a violation of the right to privacy, which is guaranteed and enshrined in our constitution. Now, the statements that they read out, they put out really said, and I'm going to read from here: requiring messaging apps to trace chats is the equivalent of asking us to keep a fingerprint on every single message sent on WhatsApp, which would break end-to-end encryption and fundamentally undermine people's right to privacy. Now, the new IT rules, which are really the digital media ethics code, they were released in February, and social media platforms were supposed to implement them in 3 months, and those 3 months end today. So today they should have been enforced. Today they should have come into effect. Joining us today to unpack the implications of this move by WhatsApp on the of suing the Indian government are cyber law experts Ashutosh Srivastava and Ambika Khanna, who's a senior researcher, International Law Studies Program at the Gateway House. Also joining us are BJP's Charu Pragya and Pranav Jha from the Congress. And while I'm tempted, really, as I was telling them before the show, to start with the political reactions, I would really want to start with, for the benefit of our viewers, for them to understand the context of this entire controversy. I want to start with you, Ambika. Can you take us through what these new rules called for and why is WhatsApp objecting to them?
So essentially, you're right. There has been a case filed by WhatsApp, and the basis of that case is the violation of the right to privacy, which has been recognized as a fundamental right subject to reasonable restriction. So one of the leading cases on this is the Puttaswamy judgment from 2 years ago. But here there are two sides to the coin, right? One is that the state must not arbitrarily control or regulate, which raises the question of consumer privacy. But on the other hand, there is also the question that the government must have some leeway to act in a situation of national security that requires data to be shared with them in public interest. So the problem essentially is that excessive control in the language of the law, which gives the state a lot of power, which is questionable if it's reasonable in a democracy or not. The second question is the question of consent, where essentially, which needs more deliberation, where if I as a user, if I'm giving consent to WhatsApp, does that include my consent for sharing of my data ahead? This is additional to end-to-end encryption, where WhatsApp does not have access to my content. It does not know too much about what my communication is. The last point is that the government may not be on a very strong standing here, because India does not yet have a data protection regime in place. It has been over 3 years since the first draft was placed. We've been hit by the pandemic, and digital is central to all our worlds, from bank accounts to COVID-related data, including our health data, which is all online. So we need a law that brings about some uniform rules on this. This will lead to more questions, but we have to make a start somewhere.
Okay, you're saying that the government is on a weak footing as far as this law when it's challenged in the court of law is concerned. But tell me something. Okay, let me go to you, come to you, Ashutosh. This is the same company that had updated its own privacy policy in January this year, which allows them business conversations hosted with social networks, to share those conversations for advertising purposes with Facebook subsidiaries, with other companies, and even to share that information. Now being concerned there, is this a genuine concern of violating the privacy of users in India, or is it just buying time because they can?
See, I first of all, this is the amendment which the government has brought is basically known as Digital Media, Ethics Code, and this ethics code has been introduced by the government 3 months earlier, and 90 days time was given to all these intermediaries like WhatsApp and all to adhere to whatever was required to be done.
Hmm.
And the government came up with regulations of these intermediaries because a lot of contents, maybe misinformation, maybe some obscene, or maybe something which is not good or beneficial for the kids and youngsters. So just to have the regulations also for the protection and integrity and safety of the country. So the government wanted to have certain regulations. Unfortunately, we didn't have any law to regulate such kind of restrictions on these intermediaries. We were dependent on our IT Act of 2000, in which there was hardly any scope of such regulations to these intermediaries. There were only sections like section 72A, 43A of that previous IT Act, which could give certain powers, limited powers to the government to have such kind of regulation and control over the intermediaries. Now the
Hmm.
intermediaries used to say that whenever any objectionable content is posted, they used to say that we are not responsible. The person who has posted should be prosecuted. We do not have any locus on that. Now to bring these intermediaries into the locus, so that they are also responsible to find out as to who is the originator of such kind of a post which could be objectionable, which could be unlawful. So they should be under that scanner. But
Fair
now
enough. I
this
understand your point of view, but
yeah
no, you're giving me. Just tell me.
I
I understand what you're saying, but for our viewers, simply put, what is the problem with the traceability
yeah
law?
yeah
Why is it a
yes
problem?
I'm going to yes I'm going to that part only. Now this WhatsApp has filed a suit in Delhi High Court. It says that it is something, a kind of encroachment upon the privacy of the citizens of this country, because our Constitution of India under Article 21, it gives rights to the citizens to have the right to privacy.
Right,
Under Article 19 it gives the freedom of speech and expression.
right.
So, as per the petition filed by this intermediary, it says that it is complete violation of the constitutional rights of the citizens of this country. And secondly, they express their difficulty in handling the originator, because in India we have more than 50 crores of people using intermediary like WhatsApp. And to have the access to all of them will be very difficult. They are also taking the defense of a Puttoswamy case of 2017, which was decided by the Honorable Supreme Court, which said that privacy of the citizen should be protected. So they say that if we go and encroach upon the individuals, citizens who could be posting certain their posts or whatever in the social media, so it will be something, we will be encroaching upon their personal rights, so their privacy can be can get affected. So this is what they are
Fair enough.
claiming before the Delhi High Court.
Right.
Yes.
I just want to bring in Ambika here for a moment, and then I will go to my Charu Pragya and to Mr. Pranav Jha and get the political reactions. Ambika, what this is the same WhatsApp, which in January changed its own rules, right? Its own privacy policy. In hindsight, when you look at their own privacy policy, what they did in January, and how they are actually forcing everybody in India to adhere to that privacy policy, when you balance out, is the privacy policy WhatsApp's own privacy policy, is that more problematic for the user? Because I'm not talking about WhatsApp or the government, I'm talking about the user, people like you and me who use these platforms.
Right.
What is more problematic? Is the government's mandate via the IT rules, more problematic? That if there is a problem or if there's an inflammatory or a problem message, that you sort of tell us what the origin is, or is it more problematic what WhatsApp is doing in its own privacy policy, which is actually making your data available to various other outside users for advertising purposes?
Aditi, I'm just going to break this into two. I think what you're talking on the privacy policy, that has more to do with our data being shared ahead with their group company, which is Facebook. So the concern why WhatsApp was able to do that in India is because we don't have a regime that governs such an act. Unlike the EU, where there is proper governance rules, where WhatsApp would not have been able to introduce such a privacy policy. So I think that is a separate issue, and that is not to do with our chats data being going ahead. It's only our personal data. Where if you already have an account on Facebook, and if you're on WhatsApp, your data is anyway with Facebook. So that's one issue. The other issue which is happening now is on end-to-end encryption, where the issue is essentially that, and in an end, when you need to reach the originator, WhatsApp would ideally need to break their whole algorithm from the base, and only then can they be able to trace that originator of that one chat. So the question here will be: are you compromising the data of other users apart from the user targeted? So I think that is one of the main questions. The other question is that then are you forcing WhatsApp to redo their whole algorithm, their whole model in India, and will they ultimately do that?
So, do you feel that they are buying time with this with this lawsuit of against the Indian government because they were given a notice 3 months ago? They could have
Correct.
sort of ideally
Taken
acted
time.
acted before today, right? There was no need to act on the day that the law needs to come into force. They
Right.
could have acted before now.
Correct. So you're absolutely right. I think one of the tactics is to buy time and to pressurize the government from different angles. So I would say I would actually call it a strategy. So it's obviously some kind of a strategy there, because their privacy policy is affected, and now this whole algorithm on their end-to-end encryption. So I think it's a combination of these factors, but I would not legally I would not correlate the privacy policy to the end-to-end encryption.
All right, thank you. Let me bring in our political guest, Charu. I want to start with you because this directly is, the social media platforms, starting with WhatsApp, of course, and I'm sure others will follow suit, hitting back at the government for its new IT rules 3 months after they were asked to follow these guidelines. Your response on the entire lawsuit filed by, and your party's response on this lawsuit that has come into force today.
So, Aditi, let's break this up. First of all, what exactly is the government asking these tech giants to do currently? The requirements, I believe, are very basic, starting with setting up a complaint redressal for me. I'll give you an example today, and I also am a woman. So today, if I have an issue with a current post on one of my social media accounts, and if I want to get rid of that post, what ways do I have to take this ahead in a legitimate and a safe manner? There aren't very many available. The government has said that you have to set up a 3-step complaint redressal system. You have to employ a nodal officer in India who's going to make sure the compliances are done in case of a breach of something the government needs you to do. And the third thing is that in case of, say, fake news being spread, so we're always talking about fake news, so on and so forth. A lot of women's dignities are compromised on social media, and this cannot be taken lightly. Isn't it important that we identify who was the first person, the original creator of the content which has gone viral? So maybe it is related to violence in the capital, maybe it is related to the dignity of a woman which has been compromised. It's essential that the first originator of content is identified and held responsible for what is happening. These are the government's requirements, and I think they're very fair. As the world changes, the way crime done in the world is also changing. And when you want to deal with this crime, which has moved online now, which has moved into the cyberspace now, and which is basically a dark space for most citizens. I know it's a dark space for me, and every day I end up learning a little bit more. And I say with certainty, a lot of citizens are like me. Every day they learn a little bit more, and they are concerned with what is important for them, and they leave the rest aside. But that doesn't mean the cyberspace is not something which is not easy to maneuver, and the government has to keep up with the crime which has shifted online. What are these tech giants doing instead of complying with these rules, which I admit should have been in place for a very long time? They are, one, buying time, two, coming up with very flimsy reasons, and three, they are trying to say that we don't want to compromise privacy of our users. But what exactly is happening. They are the ones who decide which accounts are being pulled down. They are the ones who decide which tweets are tagged as manipulated, for example. They are the ones who call all the shots. So have they become bigger than the government of the country in which they are operating? Definitely not. Should they be allowed to carry on like that? Most 100% not. And for everyone who thinks that there is no life beyond one social media platform, well, TikTok had millions of users and it was banned. And if it re-enters India, it is going to be on the premise of things being lawful. The laws are transparent. It is out for everyone to see. Why can the compliance for these laws not be equally transparent? And when it comes to protecting people also means protecting people against what has happened. I use a personal example. A few months back, a girl reached out to me. I'm also a lawyer. Reached out to me. Charu, there are which are floating around on the internet, and I have no idea how to get that off. And I have written to the cyber cell, but asking me for a long list of documents, and they're asking, Aditi, audible?
Yes, you were
Am I
a
audible?
little inaudible in between, but I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Yes, please.
Yeah. So I'm going back to this one case. So what happens is the aggrieved party also starts feeling that there is no support. Wouldn't it be easier if there is a time-bound complaint redressal system? All the platforms on which somebody's picture is floating around or some sort of fake news is floating around.
Fair enough, Charu.
And
Charu, allow me to
the
interrupt
person
you.
who companies have to appoint is going to be a neutral person. Well, you have the choice. Why don't you find a judge you trust? Why don't you find a previous senior adjudicator you like and employ that person? The government is not deciding who's going to be calling the shots for your company.
Fair enough. I get your point, but let me just also bring in the other side of the, the other side of the argument. And you say that the government is asking for traceability to pinpoint messages that could maybe lead to terrorist activity or violence or upset harmony in the society. There is another argument that says that there should be liberty and autonomy and freedom of expression is enshrined in our constitution. There is a fine balance, and let me bring in Pranav Jha at that point. The Congress, Pranav Jha, you were in that press conference a while ago with Abhishek Manu Singhvi. You have hit out very hard at the new guidelines. You've called them dire, you've called them drastic, you've called them draconian. You've even compared it to the North Korean model of social media control. What's your take on this entire controversy, and why is the opposition so against these new guidelines?
Aditi, you belong to the media fraternity, and you have covered politics, you have covered governments. And for the benefits of viewers, if you were to remind them that whenever the governments become unpopular, they react. And what do they react? They try to curb the public expression, the freedom of expression, what we call abhivyakti ki azadi. Just sometimes back, I think I was watching end of April, posts which criticized the government for unable to control corona were asked to be removed from the social media platform. Was it needed to be? No, it did not need to be. And you had very, what you call, exciting expressions and acts from especially states like Uttar Pradesh. लोग ऑक्सीजन के लिए जब लिख रहे थे तो FIR लॉन्च किया गया, सेडिशंस के कानून लगाए गए, बेटी अपने पिता के लिए ऑक्सीजन के लिए मांग कर रही थी तो उसके ऊपर एक्ट किया गया. So I am saying that in a country where the rule of law is anyway at danger from the government, who are supposed to be the protectors. Now, coming to the present case, you see, what it proposes to do is that if Aditi, or say, for example, Ambika were to write a post, I as government have a right to ask Ambika, who could be sitting anywhere in the world, to remove that post. And if Ambika chooses not to, then the intermediary, the platform becomes liable. The platforms which had protection under Section 79 becomes liable. So the first problem is that the intermediary is bound to expose or to tell the government under Rule 4 where is the location, who's the person. So it takes away your freedom of expression. It takes away your right, what you call that end-to-end encryption. Well, the counter to that is, what is the problem? Where is the problem? If the post that is written by Ambika, or for that matter by me, is anti-national, is against the spirit of India, is against unity, it foments trouble, then there is a problem that the government is just.
Charu Pragya, you want to come in there?
But I want to just see that.
Okay, wait. Let him finish his point. His point. जी, खत्म करिए आप जो बोलना चाह रहे हैं, please.
But you see, when the government is so intolerant to expressions, to the demand, a platform which is played like the savior during this pandemic, helped millions of people. People were seeking help. They were helping each other, and you have seen it in the past that journalists have been taken to task. They've been charged with sedition for writing the story. नमक रोटी वाली कहानी आपको उत्तर प्रदेश की याद है?
पर मैं प्रणव
याद है?
Pranav, you can come in. Just give me one moment. Pranav, मेरे पास एक सवाल है आपसे. मैं and please respond to that. आपने बोला कि that the government is cracking down freedom of expression. मतलब जो भी कोई भी कंप्लेनेंट, कोई भी क्रिटिक होता है उसके लिए, लेकिन ऐसा नहीं है कि आपकी सरकार के वक्त ये नहीं हुआ था. आपको याद है 2012 में कपिल सिब्बल थे आईटी मिनिस्टर, उन्होंने कई सारे मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म, सोशल मीडिया अकाउंट्स को, यूजर्स को ब्लॉक किया था, यूट्यूब पे, फेसबुक पे, ट्विटर पे. उन्होंने भी कहा था, उस वक्त भी काफी बड़ा बवाल मचा था इस पूरी चीज पे. वो कैसे सही है और ये कैसे गलत है, इसका जवाब दे दीजिए. देन बिकॉज आई नो दैट आप जो बोलने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, बट आई रियली वांट योर पर्सपेक्टिव. जी,
आपने मेरे प्रश्न का जवाब खुद दिया अदिति, कि 2012 में जो गलत था 2021 में वो और भी गलत है, क्योंकि ये नए कानून है और इवॉल्विंग कानून है. अगर 2012 में गलत था, 10 साल के बाद अगर दूसरी सरकार आके, जो कि अपने आप को बहुत बेहतर बताती है, वही काम कर रही है, तो कैसे बेहतर है? 2012 के बाद वो 2024 में हटा दी गई, ये सरकार भी हटा दी जाएगी, लोग तय कर लेंगे. तो इससे गलत जो है वो गलत रहेगा. 10 साल के बाद जो गलत है वो ज्यादा बड़ा गलत होता है, क्योंकि उसको समय मिला समझने का, लोगों से.
जो गलत है वो गलत है. चारू प्रज्ञा, प्लीज रिस्पॉन्ड टू दैट.
So I do not want to get into politics, because I can go on and quote examples of what the Congress government has done in the past, but I'm going to refrain from doing that. You're aware, and most of the listeners who are listening to us today are aware. However, I'm going to say two things. One, misuse of law cannot become a deterrent for making laws. That's my solid argument to what the Congress spokesperson is saying. So we've got laws for many things. I'll give you examples. Dowry laws. How many men will come and say, this law was misused against my family. I actually did not indulge in anything unlawful. I am stuck. I understand there could be an instance of misuse of a law which is made for public good, but that one misuse cannot keep away all the beneficiaries who would benefit from making a law. And being a lawyer, I'm a firm believer in this. The second point I want to make is that laws are permanent. And even though I'm a big follower of Prime Minister Modi, I'm a big fan of Prime Minister Modi, and I think he's here to stay, but governments are not permanent. So when we make a law, of course, we can amend it, but these laws are going to also be in place when and if the government changes, if it happens tomorrow. So we have to understand politics is a swinging pendulum. And because of this swinging pendulum, you cannot keep people away from what is required at this point of time. Another thing that I want to say, which I don't agree with, is that we've got watchdogs now, which maybe did not exist as stringently 10 years ago, 15 years ago, or even 5-7 years ago. Every single day, media presence increases. Every single person who owns a smartphone becomes someone who can put out proof. So it's very easy to take screenshots. It's very easy to make videos, so on and so forth. So we need to have a little more trust in our system. We need to have a little more trust in our judicial system. And just because we are scared of an accident, it doesn't mean we never take our car out of the driveway.
just because there's an accident, don't stop taking the
when
car
the
out.
intention is to hit
Pranav
a
Jha,
person.
yes, I think you need to come in there. Ji, bataiye.
When you know that every time the guy takes out the car with intention to hit a person, then you better not be allowed to drive the car. You see, I cite you so many examples. Had there been so many sedition cases, if you look at the sedition cases lost in last 10 years, 70% of the cases have been lost in last 7 years. I think more than that. So it's a proof enough, Aditi, that a government, when it goes out to Twitter office, what do you do? Why do they go? They go with 10 people to serve a notice, and with a television camera, the intention is to intimidate. The intention is to intimidate someone, send a signal, and people can understand. It's a very intelligent country. People realize that. So I'm saying that there's nothing wrong.
But intimidate
the way all governments
But
react.
Aditi, he's with all due respect, you are not even addressing the crux of the problem. You're not even addressing the fact that tech giants think they're above government. You're not even addressing the issue that if there is a issue, if I have a problem, where do I go and I file a complaint? There is nothing with that regard. And tomorrow, if there are riots, if there are violence, if there is any sort of a problem, or if the modesty of a woman is outraged, who is going to identify who was the first person that started
Charu,
that?
I think the reason for that also is that from all the number of requirements that the new IT rules put on the tech media giants, the issue that is come to the fore and what they have managed to make the issue today is traceability, privacy. That has become the main issue, and the other things that have been asked, that what you had said, because IT rules have asked for a lot of other things, and I'm going to talk about them in a bit, which includes having a redressal platform, appointing a resident grievance officer based out of India, having responding to grievances, and so on and so forth. Those issues are not the center of conversation, at least today, because the lawsuit that has been filed only on the basis of the privacy angle. I think that is the reason that we're not discussing the other aspects. But I do want to talk about it, and I want to go to my experts here. And let me come to you. Let me come to you, Ashutosh. Tell us, let's not keep the government or the WhatsApp or WhatsApp at the center of this conversation. Let's keep people like you and me, the user. As an ordinary citizen, do you feel that the IT rules 2021, are they beneficial to me apart from that traceability clause which everybody is very angry about, or are they not beneficial to me?
So I would say, there is a very thin line, between the regulations of these intermediaries and on the other part, the right to privacy and right to have the freedom of speech and expression granted by the constitution of this country. So, here when the matter is subjudiced before the Honorable Delhi High Court, I think it will be in the interest of the people of this country that this thin line is somehow maintained in such a way that the regulations are also there for the intermediaries in the interest of the people of this country. But at the same time, the people should not be, their right, which has been granted by the constitution under Article 1921 should not be taken away from them. That is very important, because if, there would be many governments coming, going, but it doesn't mean when the same platforms are appreciating any decisions of the government, it should be continued, and if they criticize, then there should be curbs. So what I feel, that the people's opinion, their views should not be curtailed, because the constitution has given them this kind of powers, this kind of rights. So that is very important to be protected. So whatever laws the government is coming up, that is really good. Obviously these intermediaries are required to be regulated, otherwise our sovereignty, our security of the country, everything would be into question. But as I said, then at the same time, the people's right should not be affected. They should have the freedom of speech.
That's a very golden balance that needs to be arrived
so
at.
balancing, balancing has to be.
Ambika, let Ambika come in there. Ambika, with the there are, as I said, a lot of other rules, but with the traceability clause, the government of the day can crack down on political opponents, on critics. So the citizens need to be protected. But it's also imperative that some sort of checks and balances need to be put in place so that people just don't write anything and create any kind
Right.
of nonsense, any kind of mayhem in society at large. So how do we ensure that golden balance?
I think this word "fine balance" is just the right expression. So I've come up with something called TAG, which is basically transparency for both corporates and governments. A, for accountability of platforms, but subject to the safe harbor provisions being in place. And the last is a robust and independent grievance redressal mechanism along with dispute resolution. So the new rules have actually tried to bring in place this, but I think there's a lot more work to be done. But if I can also add, I think one very important point is that we must remember we need a model that marries innovation with regulation. This sector is such that it's very dynamic. That it'll always evolve, and there always need for innovation. But we need something that marries innovation with regulation. Neither can exist in silos. We have an example from the EU where very often the EU has adopted policies where they marry innovation with regulation in their drafting as well as their implementation. I think one of the most recent examples was the Digital Services Act, which the government can also look at. So if we have to look at what other countries are doing as well. And lastly, I would like to say that it's not just one set of rules that will really be sufficient. In addition to data protection, we also need cybersecurity laws. What we have right now is a cybersecurity policy, which is not legally enforceable. We need a proper cybersecurity law where questions such as attribution are addressed. And if I can add one last point, that we need stakeholders to come and work together. None of this can happen on its own. We need all stakeholders, from private to government to civil society. Everyone needs to work together. We can't be attacking each other. It's only when we work together can we have a robust digital governance platform.
You're right, and everybody needs to work together. But in today's India, it seems kind of virtually impossible with the opposition and the government always at loggerheads, even on issues which are probably matters of daily governance and which need to be addressed in India's interest. But thank you so much for joining us for this broadcast. I think I've taken enough of your time. Thank you, Pranav Jha. Thank you, Charul Pragya. Thank you, Ambika. Thank you, Ashutosh. But we hope to see you again soon. We hope this debate dies down sooner than later, because, as we said, it's very, very important for India's social media giants to sort of at least have some sort of control over them. And as we said earlier, that the IT Act is not just about the traceability clause, which has become a bone of contention. It's got a number of other things, grievance redressal mechanisms, which are very, very important as far as even users like you and me are concerned. If we have a problem with the post, we should be able to go to them and get it addressed, which actually is a topic for a separate debate itself, because why do we give how are we giving so much powers to these private parties? These social media giants are all private parties, really. How are we giving them powers to become educators and having their own grievance redressal mechanism? Who gives them the right to decide what's right and what's wrong? And of course, a whole lot of other issues. But the traceability clause, yes, you're right. We need to find a fine balance, because the government of the day, yes, can misuse the law, to take their angst out on detractors and critics. On the other side is also extremely, extremely relevant, which is that the users need to be able to feel safe in that environment, and there are no, let's say, people who are kind of sending out inflammatory messages or which are causing problems in society, which eventually leads to violence and so on and so forth. But thank you so much for joining this broadcast. Thank you, viewers, for watching this. Hope you are more informed at the end of all this.
Thank you,
and we'll keep coming back. We'll keep coming back to you with more. Stay tuned.
Thank you, Aditi.
Thanks. Bye.